I mean, like the questions are for both of you, but let's start with Anthony. What were you doing before founding this industrial IoT startup, and what did you do previously that influenced you to become entrepreneur?
Next question. Can you elaborate on the challenges you faced in the first few months of building the company? How long did it take for you to arrive at the final iteration of the product? Let's start with Aashish.
Yeah, I think I hope you're not driving there, but yeah, I think in terms of big challenges was mostly on the technology front. So for us, developing a product was quite fluid. My background was in engineering, so product cycle development, embedded development, PCB, finding the right partners to make sure we get the production all sorted out, component selection, all that aspects are quite difficult in general, but based on the experience that I've had also with Dr. Reza being very technical, we were able to get past those quite quickly as we moved along. I think the biggest challenge was always just technology. I mean, basically, wireless power transfer is type of technology that when people hear that, they kind of, there's only a few really sort of responses. One is, it sounds like magic, isn't possible. The second aspect is that, second response would be, okay, a lot of people have tried to put a lot of money into it, but failed. Why can you sort of, develop that? And the third part is that, obviously is more on really like, is it even possible to create? Is it possible to commercialize? So for us, I think the difficulty was being able to pre-convince people before developing any hardware or developing any technology that this is a possibility, and this is something that can be done pretty quickly, and you don't really have to have like tens of millions of dollars to create it. So that's something which was really difficult for us to convince people. Yeah, I mean, it's initially when we started the company, we thought, okay, fine, we're removing wires. It's quite obvious. Why aren't people positive about that? But I think the big part is that a lot of people have tried to do that and failed, and that's really hard for us to convince people that we are different and we're doing it a different approach. But in terms of technology, in terms of hardware, we were really, really lucky, and we were able to get our milestones within 6 months. We were able to do the first prototype. But then obviously after doing the first prototype, it's all about commercialization. How do you manufacture it? How do you make sure that this prototype is actually deployable with customers? Because customer sites are going to be different types of features, different type of requirements. So it took us about, I would say, 1.5 years just to kind of figure out the deployment features, scenarios, and design for manufacturing. So that's the time it took to kind of iterate and develop the tech over time. But that's, I would say, the hardware aspect and the tech aspect wasn't too bad. It's just the being able to get support and help initially was difficult. And then I'd definitely like to thank Prasetia for believing in us in a very early stage. So it's I think that's one of a very rare trait from Prasetia's point of view.
Okay, thank you. And Anthony?
Sure. I would concur with a lot of things that Aashish mentioned. I think one of the biggest things for us at the beginning was really getting the technology right for our initial set of customers, and it's quite different because for an Airbnb host, if you put yourself in the mind of an Airbnb host, you have all these properties that are in the beach, in the mountains, and stuff like that. And then when you install a smart lock, that's connected to Wi-Fi or one of these Z-Wave or Zigbee kind of solutions, the signal might not really reach the router in a big house that you have, or if your house is in the mountains, you might not really have some kind of good connection. And Murphy's law, right? Whenever a guest needs to go into your house, the Wi-Fi always breaks down during that time. So we realized that very early on that when we started building our very first prototype, we were putting a lot of radio frequencies into our locks, to connect to the Wi-Fi or connect to some kind of a low power system. And when we start deploying it, we ran into all these deployment issues, firewalls with your router, or just the Wi-Fi just doesn't work because there's rain going on. And we very quickly realized that it is not possible to go on like this, because the cost of deployment is too expensive versus what we're actually selling the product for. Just to give you an example, our very first few deployments, each of them took us on average like 4 to 5 hours. In fact, the first one took us like 12 hours just to make sure that the signal is right in the house, to connect to the lock, to connect to the router. And it essentially cost us $500-600 just to do the deployment. So this is not a viable business model. And it took us a couple of months of iteration, and we realized that, hey, we need to go against what the whole of the IoT industry is thinking, right? The whole Internet of Things industry is thinking to get more and more connected, everything to be connected. We need to deconnect everything. We need to decouple everything. So we started saying, hey, can we make a lock that you can remotely manage without the lock needing any connectivity at all? It sounds completely counterintuitive, but that was the solution that we need to arrive at in order to get the product to market fit for the vacation rental market that we were going after. So, together, our technology teams, we sat down together, and eventually we came together to identify this solution, where we created a lock with a cryptography algorithm in there using some sort of a PSK token system, like your banking token, so that remotely you are able to generate one-time passwords or duration-based passwords that the lock can recognize, even though there's completely no connection at all. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no cellular technology, there's no signal at all. And it completely relies on the clock and a seed algorithm that is running on the lock itself. So this solves a very big problem for us, enabling us to deploy in houses where it's huge, where there's no Wi-Fi, or where very low signal strength, and yet be very, very confident that it will be reliable for every single time you want to let a new guest into your house. So with this technology, which eventually we called it and trademarked it, called the Algo Pin technology, we arrived at it really 6 to 9 months into the start of a journey. The iteration when we went through at least 2 to 3 iterations before we landed on this, and it was really through our early deployments and the pain points that we face and our customers face when we install at the customer's house, that what connected locks cannot work for the vacation rental space. So eventually, we started the company in August 2015. Finally, the first product that we were ready to call it version 1 that's commercial really launched about 10 to 11 months after that. And we're still continuously iterating. You never stop iterating. You never stop improving. And today we are on our version 4 of that particular lock that we shipped out on 1st of May in 2016. And today the range of locks that we have a lot more kind of radio modules in there, so that it does a lot of other things, like with real-time data collection, cellular technology, so that we write on licensed spectrum for high security standards. But the very first product that we launched was something which was very simple. It's essentially an OTP-enabled lock. Yeah, and that was really the biggest challenge for us, finding that product market fit that eventually got us, recognized by Airbnb as an interesting partner, because all the other locks in the market at that point in time from the US, they were all trying to connect to Wi-Fi. We were the only ones that say, let's not connect to Wi-Fi, and this is the reason why, and this is the reason why you can do it cheaply, at half the cost of the other locks, and at 2 times the battery length, of what you see in the market. And this enable us to get our first, kind of win in our enterprise contracts to scale up from there. I guess technology is really one big challenge that we really face. We spend quite a bit of money iterating it. I think the other part of it that I wanted to just touch on a little bit is also on the infrastructure side. Because as you are deploying door locks, you're installing on the door, you need to make sure that you have very strong customer service support. Because in the beginning, it was the Airbnb host with 10 rooms, 20 rooms, and if any of the lock fails, they will call you, right? They will say, hey, Anthony, I cannot get into my house, or the PIN code doesn't work. Why? And we needed to make sure that we were there. At any point in time when they call, somebody will pick up and be able to assure them that we're there to solve. Yeah, so I would say that these are the 2 biggest challenges: getting the infrastructure right and the product market fit right. Yeah, amongst many other things, I guess. Yeah.
When in the beginning, weren't you selling the locks with the Wi-Fi?
Yes, yes. Right at the beginning, we were selling locks with Wi-Fi connection, and that was where we realized that Wi-Fi, causes your lock to run out of batteries within a few, maybe a week or so. And Wi-Fi is difficult to connect to your router, especially in some houses, in many houses actually, in the vacation rental space. If the houses are in the basement, the Wi-Fi router to the basement might not really hit that well, and then you get very spotty connection. And even in the US, where we first started doing a lot of trials, the houses are huge. With a router in the kitchen to the door, you might be 20 meters away, and the Wi-Fi just doesn't get full coverage when you hit the door. And so we will get calls from the customer saying that, hey, your lock doesn't work, and we'll be like, maybe you restart your router, or you bring your router closer, so that you can be closer to the lock. But I think these are situations that we cannot face if you want to scale up. Even though it's just a small thing like this. Yeah. So we had to get rid of it.
Yeah. So I remember when we started talking, like you were still selling the Wi-Fi, but you told us that you were changing the whole technology soon.
Right.
Yeah. How long did it take until you changed the model?
Sure. It took us about 9 months. About 9 months to change the model. And eventually we went back to some of our customers and say this new model is completely decoupled from your home Wi-Fi system. It's a lot more reliable. You are able to let your guests in a much more reliable manner and have much longer battery life. It's great. And I think one thing that we did at the beginning was have very, very close relationships with all our early customers. We know the first 50 customers that deploy our locks in their doors because they believed in us when we had we was very small at that point in time, just 5, 10 people making locks, right? And they were very they know that we were genuine and we were sincere in trying to help them solve their problems. And it was good that because they were Airbnb hosts themselves, and to a certain extent, a lot of Airbnb hosts, they are mini entrepreneurs themselves, right? Renting out a spare room, so they were willing to try new technologies. And when we showed them that we came out with a lock that doesn't need Wi-Fi and yet you can remotely manage it, they were actually very thrilled, and they were ready to try it. And that kind of enabled us to turn the corner and enable us to scale up in a faster way. But today, with our Iglooworks solution, it's not just based on that. We have that as a fallback on an offline solution with a cryptography system, but we have our cellular technology which connects to the narrowband IoT network. We have radio, connectivity as well to enable different kind of mesh kind of communication. But I think that really came on later on, where we have a lot more firepower within our engineering team to solve some of these issues, of connectivity. Yeah.
So the next question is, beyond the ideation and prototype phase, what other hurdles did you face in building an IT company? For example, hardware startups are prone to collapsing when they face insurmountable problems during the manufacturing cycle. So I guess like one is like manufacturing, and did you face like regulation problem?